rules for AI in the marketplace, Industry 4.0, and smart factories. Those are just two of the topics we're going to cover here today in episode 171 of Transformation Ground Control.
Welcome to Transformation Ground Control. Ground Control. The podcast that covers everything related to digital transformation. This podcast features technology agnostic and international discussions related to digital strategy, software selection, implementation, change management, business process optimization, and everything else you need to know to make your digital transformation project successful. Whether you're embarking on an ERP implementation, supply chain transformation, or any other business or digital transformation, this podcast is for you. Now, here's your host, Eric Kimberling.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, welcome to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name's Eric Kimberling, here with Darian Chwialkowski. Darian, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This is the podcast that covers everything related to digital transformation, including the strategy, people, process, and change parts of transformations. We're going to have a great show for you today. I'll get into the agenda here in just a moment, but first, the show is produced by Major Tom Productions and sponsored by Third Stage Consulting. That's the company that Darian and I are both affiliated with. Third Stage Consulting is an independent consulting firm that helps clients through the world with their digital transformation and ERP implementation journeys. And you can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com. You can also go to past episodes of the show by going to transformationgroundcontrol.com, so you can miss or see what you missed in all 170 episodes. If you have the time to go check out some or all of them, you can find that there. Great show for you today. We're going to get into some audience questions to start, audience questions from social media. We're also going to get into a recent article regarding rules for AI in the marketplace. And then we're going to have our guests on the show. I'll let them introduce themselves here in just a moment, but they're from a company called PCG, which is a manufacturing, consulting, and product provider. They're going to be on the show talking about smart factories and Industry 4.0. So really looking forward to that conversation. We'll talk about what smart factories are, what Industry 4.0 means, what manufacturers are doing in general to move forward with their technology initiatives, and how they're leveraging technology to make their manufacturing operations better. And then later in the show, we're going to play you a clip of another podcast where I was interviewed on that podcast. The podcast is called Legacy Leaders, and I was recently interviewed for that show, so we thought we'd play you a clip of that interview here later in the show here today. But before we bring our guests on, Darian, what kind of questions have you seen lately on our social media channels?
Yeah, we have some good in-depth social questions today. So the first one is, those who sell shovels in a gold rush get rich, while those who do the digging get dusty regardless of what gold they find. And I can appreciate the hustle. But with the overwhelming move to the cloud, what is keeping organizations tethered to acceptable cost or needed skills in the future? You clearly understand and appreciate that there's no best this or that. It's all situation specific, and I applaud you for that. But what happens in the near and long-term future of an organization that moves to the cloud and doesn't have internal skill sets to change back? Or ironically, it's too costly. You would have a hard time convincing me that the producer of any product that has considerable switching costs won't take that into consideration with future cost increases. There is no incentive for producers of cloud services in the medium and long term to not capitalize on the services they provide. I appreciate your thoughts and insights on this.
Yeah, that's a deep question, and it's a really good one. I've actually been thinking about it a lot lately with, just in general, like with the whole concept of companies essentially outsourcing all of their systems, all their data, and now using AI to further, not further outsource, but to further push their data outside the organization into these AI models and algorithms. I don't know, and I'm not sure why. I'll admit I have a side of me that gets a little draconian at times. You know, my favorite book, my two favorite books of all time are 1984 by George Orwell and Atlas Shrugged by Ayn Rand. And I know this show is not about books, but the reason I share that is I probably have a bias or a different lens that I look at this through. So I tend to think when you have these big, massive organizations and these big, massive tech companies, I do wonder what happens as that leverage and that balance of power continues to shift towards the vendors and organizations throughout the world, especially like smaller and mid-sized organizations, they are just tiny fish in this huge pond of mass technology and AI and data, and they've outsourced everything to these organizations. And then you're right, or this person's right, what happens when the software vendors raise their subscription costs, which they will. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when and how much. And if you might be lucky enough to work in some sort of consumer price index limit to how much the subscription rates can go up, but that's pretty rare that you even see that. So I do think that there's a problem here with leverage, and so I think organizations have to think about how do we get the leverage back, or how do we maintain that balance of power to where we have control over our organization, even though a third party is hosting all of our applications, all of our data. AI models are using our data to analyze stuff. How do we ensure that we preserve that some sort of power, center of power within the organization, not outside of it? And one of the ways to do that is what this person says. You build the skill sets, you build the competencies. The other thing you can do too, which I think is really important, is, okay, everything's moving to the cloud. That's great. Doesn't mean you need to put all of your eggs in one basket and move all of your applications and data to one cloud provider. I think that's the problem. You get that vendor lock-in at that point. Whereas if you diversify your vendor, your applications and the vendors you work with, that sort of diffuses the balance of power away from any one vendor, and it sort of keeps you in the driver's seat. So you do have to think about these sort of intangible things with spheres of influence and leverage and that sort of thing, because I think there is a dark cloud in my mind, or in sort of how I see the future. I think there's sort of a dark side that we haven't really seen fully materialize, and I think it's out there on the rise. I don't know how far it is, but I think at some point there is going to be a backlash against these big cloud providers where companies say, hey, hold on, we've completely lost control here, or this software vendor is no longer a good fit for us, or it's getting too expensive, we want to bring stuff back in-house, or we want to switch vendors. And I think in that case, the switching costs are very high. It's going to be very complex, very difficult. And I think there's going to be a day of reckoning on the horizon. I don't know when it is, but I think that is going to happen at some point here with the whole cloud movement and these big tech vendors in particular.
Yeah, super interesting. And for anybody that doesn't know, Eric actually did a video on the dark side of cloud software. So if you want to check that out, go look on his YouTube, and maybe you can get some more information there.
Yeah, good stuff. Great question, though.
Yeah, great question today. Our second social question is, Eric Kimberlin, thank you for bringing up the subject. The timing couldn't be better for discussions about AI opportunities or business drivers. If you consider effectiveness and efficiency to automate repetitive tasks to enable more focus on strategic goals versus administrative, for example, in a familiar context of Oracle, ERP, cloud, SCM solutions, supplier qualification management, or sourcing, possibilities are limitless with pros or cons and lots of data through AI for decisions making. What are your thoughts on this, Eric?
Yeah, great point, and I agree. I mean, supply chain management, procurement, those are two great areas to not only drive potential cost optimization or cost efficiency gains, but also accomplish some of the strategic goals and objectives, especially when you think about what happened during COVID a few years ago, where supply chains got so disrupted, and they're still disrupted even now, 4 years later. And part of the reason for that was because organizations didn't anticipate disruptions to certain parts of the world, or getting, trade being locked down or cut off throughout the global supply chain. And so now with AI tools and better data and just better human learnings from the past and our mistakes in the past, now if we can use that data to make sure that we are automating our supply chain and planning our supply chain and diversifying our supply chain better, that's going to make us more adaptable, as supply chain leaders. So yeah, I totally agree. I think there's a lot of opportunity to accomplish not only cost savings, but certainly strategic goals and objectives as well as you look to new technologies.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we have this was some great, thoughtful questions today. I love seeing some more in-depth questions sometimes. I think they're really interesting to think about, and really love to hear the audience thoughts on everything that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've got any questions for us, drop it, even in the chat on this podcast episode. Wherever you're listening or watching, just drop it there. We keep an eye on all of them. And If you follow me on social media, you follow Third Stage Consulting or Darian on social media, drop it on LinkedIn or Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, wherever you're following us. Be sure to check it out there, or to drop the questions for us there. So we're going to get into our newsworthy topic here in just a moment, which is rules for AI in the workplace. So we're going to get to that here in just a moment. And then later in the show, we're going to have a panel discussion talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. And then later, I'm going to play you a clip of a podcast that I was interviewed on recently called Legacy Leaders. And in that podcast, I cover a lot of ground around digital transformations in general, entrepreneurship and starting a company, all this interesting stuff. So be sure to stick around for that. We're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control.
If you are aiming for transformation success, turn to Third Stage Consulting Group. Third Stage's independent and technology-agnostic consulting team helps clients define their digital strategies, define their roadmaps, and manage their transformations. With offices in the US, Europe, and Australia, our team helps the world's most forward-thinking organizations through their transformation pitfalls and risks. If you are embarking on a digital transformation or business change initiative, contact Third Stage Consulting to see how we can help you reach the third stage of transformation success. Learn more about us and download independent reports, videos, and other best practices at thirdstage-consulting.com.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 170. My name is Eric Kimberling here at Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com. The show is sponsored by Third Stage Consulting, an independent consulting firm that helps clients with their digital transformations, and the show is produced by Major Tom Productions. So we have an interesting topic here today, Darian. You had mentioned this topic of rules for AI in the workforce or in the workplace. What's the newsworthy topic as it relates to that?
Yeah, so as we all know, AI has become huge and more streamlined in the workplace. A lot more people are using it. According to this study, it's even significantly increased from an 8% use to over 20% in just 1 year for all employed adults. That being said, some research is saying that companies are starting to implement rules around AI in their workplace. So when employees are signing their contracts for the company, some of those contracts will say you're not allowed to use AI in certain situations or even at all in some cases. Even some companies are just saying that it's not productive at all for the workplace. Eric, as a CEO and somebody that obviously owns Third Stage Consulting. I wanted to get your kind of take on this from a CEO perspective, and if you can relate or see the other CEO's perspective on this implementation of banning AI in certain areas of the workplace.
Yeah, it's a great. It's a very newsworthy topic. I mean, it's very timely because AI has taken a hold so quickly, especially ChatGPT, that now organizations have to start thinking about, what does this mean for data privacy? What does it mean for confidential information and intellectual property? What happens if we enter some sensitive information into an AI model? Where does that data go? Who has access to it? Is there any security behind it? Are we violating any rules or regulations or agreements with our clients by pushing that information into AI? So there's a lot of unknowns and a lot of things to think about, a lot of risks too. In fact, we had a guest on this podcast a few months ago. His name's Marcus Harris. He's been on the show several times over the years, but the last time he was on, he talked about some of the considerations with intellectual property and data confidentiality as it relates to AI and ChatGPT in particular, OpenAI, et cetera. And so I encourage you to go check out that episode because he talks a lot about the different risks with AI and some of the issues that organizations and leaders need to think about. As it relates to us at Third Stage, that is something we're working on too, with our employee handbook, having a formal policy around AI, and that's something we're working on as we speak, is making sure that we have that dialed in. And you've got to look at it from a legal perspective. You've got to look at it from a client confidentiality perspective to make sure that consultants aren't doing something that may seem simple and innocent, like entering client information into an AI model to create a graphic or a summary or something like that. The purposes and the intentions might be good or innocent enough, but the question then is that appropriate? For the AI model, for OpenAI, and in the case of ChatGPT, is that appropriate for information like that getting into that AI model? And after having Marcus on the show and talking to other leaders, it's clear that it's ambiguous at best. So there's a lot to unpack there for sure.
Yeah, and I think another part of it is there isn't any regulations or laws on it yet that the government has put in place. So in my opinion, it kind of leaves it up to each company owner or CEO on what are you going to do for your company that is going to protect you, because there's no other protection out there for you besides what you set.
Yeah. And when it comes to stuff like this, I'm always watching the European Union or the EU because I think they're the ones that are probably going to sort of define what the standard is from a regulatory perspective for the rest of the world. They tend to be, especially when it comes to data and technology, it seems like they tend to be the ones that set the higher bar for compliance and that sort of thing. So I'm always watching them to see what's the EU going to do. Because chances are pretty high the U.S. and other countries will follow, shortly after. Or at the very least, even if they don't, if you're a multinational organization that operates in multiple countries like we are, we've got clients all over the world, we're going to have to comply with whatever that highest standard is. So I'm always looking for the most aggressive regulations, not because I want them, but because we're going to have to adhere to them. So I'm always watching the EU to be one of those trailblazers, for better or for worse, on regulating AI.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a super interesting perspective. I'm excited to hear more potentially about what the handbook will look like for Third Stage, or if we see what other companies start to do in the future with what their handbooks will be for their employees and what the regulations on that will be in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be keeping an eye on that. I'm sure we'll come back to this topic at some point in the near future as things continue to evolve there. So thanks for bringing that up as a good checkpoint in the meantime. We're going to have an interesting panel coming up here in just a moment. We're going to talk about Industry 4.0 and smart factories, which is a really interesting topic. I love this topic because it's such a complex topic, and it's really cool too. I mean, it's when you think about smart factories and Industry 4.0, you're thinking about everything that a manufacturer does, from the shop floor to the warehouse to the customer interface to the data they capture from the shop floor and throughout the supply chain, all the logistics between, around getting raw materials into your factory and getting stuff in and out of your warehouse to your customers. There's just so much that goes into managing a manufacturing organization that I love this concept of Industry 4.0 and smart factories. And to help us unpack it, we're going to have a panel discussion from a company called PCG, which specializes in smart factories. So we're going to have them on here in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control. I recently published my first book. It's called The Final Countdown, Strategies to Reach the Third Stage of Digital Transformation. And I wrote this book because I really wanted to find a concise way to share some of my knowledge around digital strategy and how to get started on a digital transformation journey. So in this book, I cover 3 different sections. I cover the people, process, and technology aspects of transformation, with the idea that it's meant to be a starting point, a launching pad for organizations and team members that are going through digital transformations. So I encourage you to buy this book. You can get it electronically, you can get it paperback, or you can get it in hard copy, as I'm holding here in front of you. You can get it by going to thefinalcountdown.com. You can also search for it on Amazon if you shop at Amazon. Otherwise, just go to thefinalcountdown.com. Love to hear your feedback on this book as well. So I hope you check it out and hope you enjoy.
I'm excited to share our newly released 2024 Digital Enterprise Operations Report. This free download is available on the Third Stage website at thirdstage-consulting.com. This report is truly packed full of technology-independent and agnostic insights for your project to ensure that you're strategically optimized for success. Download your copy today with the QR code in front of me or visit our website for more details.
These things take time, mom and dad, they have a good life. But what am I gonna do with mine?
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name is Eric Kimberling, here at Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday. TransformationGroundControl.com is where you can find them. You can also listen to or watch all of our past episodes of this show as well by going to TransformationGroundControl.com. Show is sponsored by Third Stage Consulting, and that is a independent consulting firm that helps clients through their digital transformation journeys, and it's also the company that I'm the CEO of. So thank you for thinking of us in your transformation journeys. I'm excited for our panel discussion here. We've got 3 people joining us from PCG. I'm going to let them introduce themselves here in just a moment. PCG is a company that specializes in smart factories, and I wanted to have this panel on the show, and I'm excited to have them on the show to talk about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. So with that all being said, I'm going to start with Adam Combs, who's the CEO of PCG. Adam, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thanks, Erica. We're really glad to be here. Appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely.
My name's Adam Combs. I'm the CEO of PCG. I'm one of the founding partners, and I've been in the business for about 30 years now. So I've been around a few times. So PCG is essentially a leader in delivering on manufacturing solutions, Industry 4.0 into 5.0 as well, in and around cloud-based solutions. What we're really doing, Eric, is we're helping bridge kind of that gap between capabilities of the that people buy and the promise of those solutions, and actually helping our customers realize that value within their business. And then our goal is to really implement those as platforms, not point solutions, so that there's a vehicle for our customers to have a sustainable path so that they can grow and adapt and evolve with that platform, as opposed to being a kind of a one and done experience for them.
Sure.
And by having strong relations with our OEMs and really knowing what's there and what's coming, having a team full of great a technology as well as an industry perspective, proven solutions. We implement things that are repeatable, as well as some of our own solutions that are repeatable, and then having kind of the back end managed services so customers are stable, as well as being able to continue to enhance and improve their experience with what they've implemented. So really proud of my team. We've been recognized by Infor and NetSuite and other OEMs dozens of times, as whether it be Manufacturing Partner of the Year or Spotlight Award winners. So I'm really proud of my team, really excited to be here and share some of what we're doing with you guys today. With me, I have, I'll hand it off to David Gustovich, who actually leads our Smart Factory team. So Dave, if you don't mind introducing yourself, that'd be great.
No, thanks, Adam. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Dave Gustovich here. As Adam indicates, I run with Ken Staresinic our Industry 5.0 and Smart Factory practice here at PCG. Been in the industry much longer than I like to admit anymore, but going on to about 40 years. Been in the operation manufacturing world, first as a consulting partner for many, many years. And then Ken and I branched out on our own to start our own manufacturing, the cloud solution that was ultimately acquired by Oracle NetSuite back in 2016. Ken and I had a stint with Oracle NetSuite for about 5 years before we left to join PCG and help launch and start the Industry 5.0 and Smart Factory practice for PCG. So very happy to be here and happy to be a part of the conversation. So Eric, thank you as well. Ken?
Hello, everyone. Just to add to what Dave said, our entire business career has been in the manufacturing and operations environment. So to kind of echo what Adam said, we've really crafted our view of Smart Factory, Industry 4.0, 5.0, from being really at the point where work is executed, products are produced in a wide array of environments. So we think we bring to the table a very good synergy of things that are relevant for all manufacturers, but the recognition of what's important to each of them. And that's what we're excited to share with you all today.
Absolutely. It's good to have you guys all here today, and appreciate getting, three experts in this field here, all in the same room. This is great. And it also sounds like you guys have a very focused solution too, which will really serve itself well here in this discussion here today. But just to get started, just to help set the context and sort of start at the foundational level of understanding smart factories, let's just talk about what is a smart factory. We start with the real basic stuff. Can we start with you, Adam?
Sure. So I'll probably hand it off here in a moment to give a little more nuanced view with my team. But for me, actually Industry 4.0 can mean a lot of different things to different people, and smart factories in particular, right? So for some companies, that's really getting into like how am I using robotics in my factory to perform physical activity. For the context of today's conversation, what we're really talking about is how are the various technologies that are in place within the kind of the IT infrastructure of a company, their security, their authentication, the different solutions that compose their ecosystem. So the enterprise system, maybe they have a WMS system, maybe they have an asset management system, certainly a smart factory solution like we bring to the table that's more focused around shop floor types of activities. Those are all together in an integrated framework, right? So in that framework, there's basic foundational elements that you need to have, right? So a data framework, an integration layer, of course, the applications themselves, and then the means by which those solutions are talking together, and in particular with machines and being able to face with IoT enabled devices, right? So that's kind of the fabric, if you will, of the customer's environment. And a lot of those solutions today are, I think, built generally more towards kind of their space that they're filling within the market, other than kind of like the integration layers. And so what we're doing is we're kind of trying to flip the lens and we've built our solution to kind of blend those solutions together and work together and do it more from the view of what the customer experience is going to be and how their particular need is going to be met across an ecosystem as opposed to within the context of a particular application. So that's kind of my view of it. Dave, you probably have more to say on this subject, so I'll pass it off to you and Ken.
Yeah, thanks, Adam. And we'll dig deeper as we go forward, but there's really four pillars that we think about as you think about smart factory, right? Because words mean different things to different people, but the four pillars for us, and again, we'll peel back as we go further into discussion, is, the first thing is, right, it's all about how do we create an environment for success. That's the first pillar. And that normally means that you have to be integrating with your system of record. And that system of record for most customers is the ERP system. So it's extremely important that your manufacturing systems have that real or near real-time integration to that system of record. So that's one. Number two is you have to have real-time or near real-time control of your shop floor and your shop floor process. And traditionally that might be referred to as an MES or as a SCADA system or as the distributed control system, but those typically have been standalone. But they need to begin to be integrated to support that Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0, and some of the other technology like AI and machine learning that's coming out. The third pillar, as you really begin to think about it, is we cannot forget about the frontline operators. They play a crucial role in terms of the human intelligence that they provide, but more importantly, we have to make them aware of how the process is performing so that while the process is performing, they have the ability to be proactive against anything that might be causing an off schedule or a variant condition to what they would otherwise expect. So being able to change that habit or that behavior of that operator is extremely important by giving them the relevant information that they need. But as important is the interface that we give to them for that vehicle to share that information has to be extremely user friendly to support that adoption process and to make the process of smart factory sticky. And the last pillar that we'll continue to talk about is obviously having the right types of analytics and the right types of metrics and KPIs so that you have that line of sight visibility in near real time as possible. Because we all know that you have to have not only a rear view mirror view of your business, but you need to have more of a windshield view of your business. So having those right analytics and those right reports and scorecards are extremely vital to helping a customer to drive that continuous improvement.
Gotcha. What are your thoughts, Ken?
Well, to kind of tag with Dave a little bit, when you think about the umbrella, to echo a couple key points, integrating to that system of record implies that the platform of which the business is running and all of the different roles within that enterprise need to be engaged together, looking at data that is consistent with good integrity so they're all able to perform their roles appropriately, and then taking advantage of, and I'm a shop floor guy, so the connected operator is really important to us, and it's critical that everyone within the organization, back to those metrics, that real-time visibility Dave spoke of, everyone is reacting to what's appropriate for the role that they perform, and they're all seeing it through the lens in which they need to execute their responsibility, but it's a consistent presentation. I'm sure everybody that's participating today has lived through scenarios of, we thought we had a great series of bundled disparate systems that everybody thought they were doing the right thing until we realized we weren't all using the same information. And there were a lot of unintended consequences. In an Industry 5.0 environment, everything is synthesized. The system, the operator, the equipment, nobody's left out of the mix. That's been the big step forward from 4.0, when there was such a focus on equipment and taking advantage of technology that kind of the operator tended to get left behind. And it's that human intelligence that's right there at the point of execution, because we can't rely on even the most sophisticated distributed control system to do everything for us. Nothing is that completely automated.
I'm here with the team at PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. We've got a lot more to cover. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control. people oftentimes ask me how I built such a strong social media following on YouTube and LinkedIn and Facebook and other outlets. And the fact of the matter is it took me a long time to build a following through a lot of trial and error, making a lot of mistakes. Had I known that there were companies out there that could help me build my brand, I would have done that a long time ago. I didn't know that, but the good news is that there is today a consulting firm that will help you through building your own personal brand through some of their training programs. The company is called Roloff Consulting, and if you're familiar with Emma Roloff, she's someone that I've had on this podcast before, and she's well known in the digital transformation space as well as the sales space, and she's big on TikTok, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And she and her husband have started a training course and a training company that focuses on helping people build their personal brands and helping them to sell themselves digitally. So whether you're a salesperson that's trying to reach more customers or you're an individual that's just trying to build your personal brand, that's something that they help with through their training programs. And they've offered listeners of this podcast a free 5-day LinkedIn challenge. And I encourage you to check it out. I've included a link below for this podcast. If you go to the podcast notes, you'll find a link that gets you free access to this 5-day challenge where you'll get step-by-step guidance. You'll get real results. So you'll get some tangible results from the program. And you also get a special offer at the end of it. So it's exclusive to listeners of this podcast. Be sure to check out the link below if you want to work on building your personal brand, or if you're in sales and you're trying to reach more people. Whatever the case may be, check it out. It's free to listeners of this podcast. You can check it out via the link below.
Interested in working for a company that truly values your unique skills and experience? Here at Third Stage, we don't hire based on resumes alone. We look at the full candidate, experience, and willingness to provide excellent service for our clients. Within a technology, independent, and agnostic consulting firm, you have the opportunity to learn across industries with a diverse group of clients. Our consultants also have the opportunity to diversify their portfolio and learn across technology systems. If you're interested in joining a high-growth entrepreneurial organization, please reach out to us at work@thirdstage-consulting.com.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name is Eric Kimberling here with Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com. And this podcast is sponsored by Third Stage Consulting, an independent consulting firm that helps clients through the world with their digital transformation journeys. And I'm here with the team of PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. Yeah, and it's interesting that you guys are sort of calling out an important differentiator here in that you've got your system of record, which oftentimes is an ERP system or some sort of back office system. But then there's other technologies that typically are required to do the other things you're talking about. And so I think it's important, as we talk through this, to recognize that it's not as simple as just putting in an ERP system and assuming that's going to enable your smart factory and give you the automation that you're looking for is sort of what I'm hearing so far. And Ken, you just sort of touched on the concept of Industry 4.0, and I've heard you mention Industry 5.0 as well. What is the difference? So what we just talked about was smart factory. Is there a difference, or what is the difference between smart factory, Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0? Like as we hear these buzzwords and these terms in the industry and in the media, how do we unpack that? How do we get our heads around what the differences are, if there are any? And I'll start with you, Adam.
Well, from my point of view, the smart factory is a component of Industry 4.0. They are somewhat synonymous, but to me, it's Industry 4.0 is an overarching thing which can go beyond what we're talking about today. To me, the difference between Industry 4.0 and 5.0 is Industry 4.0 is really focused on the integration and the communication between all of these disparate technologies. And having the right foundation, or having a foundation. Industry 5.0 is taking it to that next phase. I'm saying, okay, beyond working in a prescribed way, what's going to best serve the human, right? So how are we building solutions, and how are we giving them the ability to connect into the different platforms in a way that is focused on their needs, the insights they need, the activities they need to perform, and in a way that's related to their business processes, as opposed to simply connecting, the different solutions together. So from my point of view, it's that human focus which really differentiates 4.0 and 5.0. I know that's a topic for a lot of people to have different varying opinions, but for me, that's the most important element.
And Eric, I would add, from the way that we think of 5.0 with smart factoring, it's one of the reasons why, we've built smart factory, our solution set the way that we have is, Ken touched on it, Adam's touched on it, that over the years, customers have invested in multiple business systems. In some cases, customers have anywhere between 15 to 30 different standalone business systems. Whether it's an ERP, whether it's a LIM system, whether it's an Historian, a SCADA system, it goes on and on and on, standalone quality systems, etc. And part of the vision of 5.0 is how do you bring all these disparate and siloed business systems together in a way that harmonizes and aggregates data in a meaningful way, that it presents it to the different user groups that Ken said. And so a lot of legacy systems, a lot of legacy MES systems that are out there, they don't really do that very effectively without there being a very extensive, heavy engineering lift to build that as a one-off solution. And what we've done purposely here at PCG is to say, to support that Industry 5.0 vision, we need to have the next generation technology platform that allows us to integrate with that system of record, that allows us to integrate with that standalone quality system, that allows us to integrate with that machine PLC, or to be able to bring in data that today is only collected manually. And we need to have that ability to create that in a consumable way that then easily presents it to the different user communities so that they can begin to act upon it. And so that concept of having a next generation platform that allows you to stitch all this together is extremely critical to drive that correlation of those outcomes of interest that customers are always trying to control, whether it be around cost, quality, service, throughput, etc. And you touched on something, I think, a little bit earlier that's extremely important, is that most ERP systems, right, are transactionally based systems. They do not support operation-based information. They don't have the ability to really capture data in real time like a manufacturing system can. But what we need to be able to do is to automate as much as that transactional information as possible by taking that data from the shop floor, whether it's from the machine, whether it's from a quality system, whatever the case may be, and allow those transactions to be automatically updated. That's part of what our smart factory solution does as well. And that's important because what it does is it takes a lot of those resources that today are being more administrative and entering data after the fact, and it converts those resources into more value-added resources where now you can spend more time analyzing the data and improving the processes as opposed to just recording the data. And so that's part of our vision as we go forward with our smart factory solution set and approach as well.
Right. Right. How about you, Ken?
Well, what I would suggest to the audience and what we've tried to do, and Dave hit on it very well, is when you look at your enterprise, and it could be a series of locations that could have grown through acquisition, you could be one location, and even within one facility, you may have different value streams, different vintages, different OEMs. So, to Dave's pillars of the smart factory, there's a couple common tenets. That system of record is a common tool used by all. And the only other consistent process or element of the process are the people that need to perform and execute reliably, predictably at the appropriate quality and cost level every day to hit that service threshold. So the key is, with Industry 5.0 and automation, everybody doesn't have the resources to chase the newest piece of technology. And Adam mentioned robotics earlier. hey, in many ways, the prudent Industry 5.0 practitioner, to Dave's point, can even take a manual process and with the right smart factory tools, elevate the game of the organization in such a way that predictability and reliability and efficiency just become a natural thread of what happens every day. And the operators appreciate not having a robot to do their work with them, but really having the right tools to be involved, to be engaged, and knowing they're doing the right thing, whether it through be work instructions to guide them or the right reporting elements that they know they're on track, or to Dave's point earlier, visibility too, and clarity that their process is in control and they are just clicking right along.
Yeah. Yeah, it makes total sense. And there's a lot of reference that you guys have made so far to data and just the whole concept of capturing data. Where does the data reside? How does it integrate back to the system of record and vice versa? Tell us a little bit about Internet of Things too. I think one of you mentioned in passing Internet of Things. But as we think about Internet of Things, first of all, what is it at a high level, just for those that maybe aren't super familiar with it? Well, what is Internet of Things and how is it delivering more value, or how can it deliver more value for manufacturing organizations?
Yeah, I can take that one, Eric.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, IoT or industrial IoT, as we tend to think of it in the manufacturing world, it's really about connecting to the different devices or the different data sources, right? And the most common data source that people would think about today would be the PLC. And if you think about that program logical control system that's on all of the equipment, there could be anywhere between 60 to 70 to different 80 to 80 data tags that you can connect to that gives you insight as to how that piece of equipment is performing. Think of that as your dashboard on your car, your fuel gauge, your oil temperature, your water temperature, your speed, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's a component of IoT. But there's also data that lives out in the manufacturing environment that isn't captured in that PLC, but is relevant to bring in. So you want to be able to capture information like humidity or temperature because it has an impact in terms of the way that you perform or your product performs. So being able to connect to other devices seamlessly and cost effectively is extremely important from an Internet of Things perspective as well. So again, just staying from a manufacturing point of view, being able to bring that relevant data into a next generation manufacturing platform that then can correlate that to other data of interest is extremely important. And that's where you have to have that platform that has that ability to make those connections. And oftentimes, Eric, we get asked, well, where do I start with an IoT or a Industry 4.0 type of an initiative? And a lot of times we'll say to a customer, if you already have PLCs that are integrated into an OPC server, as an example, because that's a fairly common communication protocol for machines out there today. We can connect to those data tags that are already streaming to that OPC server literally within hours and in a few days to start to drive value for our customers. But let's say there's no data out there. Well, we can drop in very low cost sensors like a little brake beam or a little infrared beam that allows us to count things going through a case counter or going across the check weigher, as an illustration, that creates that digital signature that we can begin to bring in. But one of the other areas that is oftentimes probably not as understood as being a huge value creator for customers is in that quality and in that inspection control area from an IoT. I mean, think about how many times you walk out onto the shop floor and you see people with clipboards. And a lot of times that's the inspection, that's the quality check. That's that person that's doing that pre-op checklist at the beginning of the shift. Let's digitize that. let's put paper on glass. Let's allow that data to become digitized so that we can turn it into information that allows us to be able to act upon that very quickly. And a lot of times that's a very good place for customers to start when they think about the Internet of Things and their digital transformation process that begins to set the foundation for Industry 4.0 and 5.0 as we've been talking.
Very interesting.
And yeah, Eric, to Dave's comments, I would add to your second question, where does the value creation really come in? I mean, that's obviously critical to everybody on the call today, because everyone's making investments in their business. There has to be quantifiable returns. And, Amar's question about BPM, business process management, what we do with the Smart Factory is very similar to those elements of harmonizing, bringing together all the methods to control and manage someone's business. From the shop floor perspective, to Dave's point, that operational data and mastering of it is all about creating process predictability and being able to correlate process control to product performance and reliability. Dave mentioned humidity and temperatures. If I was a baker and I'm running a plain bagel down the line through the oven, how I control those processes are very different when I suddenly introduce cinnamon raisin, to make sure that, managing the process in the same way that I just finished a plain bagel run, I have the potential to do very bad things if I don't recognize my product is very different and that process must be controlled in a different way. Recognizing what happens on the shop floor may influence how the marketing team, how the sales team, what the maintenance team is doing. IoT gives you the opportunity to bring all that together, understand things at the lowest common denominator, and that drives potential value in many avenues for the business at large.
Eric, and the one area of risk mitigation I would share from our experience with our audience today is, we often like to tell our customers, just because you can doesn't mean that you should.
Right.
And
one of my favorite lines too.
Yeah. And what do we mean by that? Just because you have 60 data tags in that PLC that you can connect to, use the Pareto principle, right? There's going to be 20% of those data tags that are going to have 80% of the impact on those outcomes of interest that are most important for you. So part of what PCG does, beyond providing enabling technology that enables that integration of all those data elements and that amalgamation of the data, is that we help our customers to understand what are those critical few process data variables or attributes that we need to connect with, that when correlated and associated with other data elements that come from another business system, really gives you powerful information that can be very proactive in the way in which you manage your business. And that's one of the distinctions about Industry 5.0 from our perspective, is that we want to give you visibility to those attributes and those parameters that have the greatest impact on those outcomes of interest, so that when you're running a product and it doesn't perform the way you want the business system to be able to tell you what two process parameters went out of tolerance so that you can act upon it. And you want to be able to do it while the process is still running, as opposed to waiting for a report a day later or a week later that says, oh, by the way, your performance on this product run was 25% less effective than what it was the last time you ran it. So that's part of what we're driving to with the types of technology that we're enabling and the service that we enable with our customers as well.
Yeah, very interesting. Well, I'm still hungry from the thought of a cinnamon bagel from Ken's example there on the factory line. But
always a good one, Eric. Everyone likes to eat, so I knew I could hook somebody. I was expecting it to be the audience, not you, but that's good too.
Yeah, we'll see if I can make it through this interview without having to eat something now. I'm here with the team at PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. We've got a lot more to cover. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control.
I used to
Steve, we've chatted before, but remind me and our audience a little bit more about Epicor and where you're focused these days.
Hey, Eric, yep, good to talk to you, and thanks for asking. So Epicor, what we do is we make and sell cloud software for the global supply chain. And when I say that, when a customer purchases our software, we're committed to running their day-to-day business. And this would include everything from finance and procurement to production and sales. It's a responsibility we take very seriously, and it's something I believe we're very good at. We've got an employee base that has the deep expertise to understand their business and run their business. We also compete against 2 or 3 of the largest software companies in the world. So it's not good enough for our products to be good. They have to be consistently great, and that's a really important focus for me. So great products, deep industry expertise. We also focus on the essential workers that make those businesses run. We like to say Epicor's got you covered from the shop floor to the top floor. And when we say that, we really mean it. So that's Epicor.
It also suggests that you're not necessarily trying to be everything to everyone. You've got a pretty deliberate purpose and focus.
No, you're right. We really don't. So we focus on the make, move, and sell economy, which would really be manufacturing, distribution, and retail, like a retail operation. Well said. We don't try to be everything to everyone. We really do specialize and focus. And it is one of the secrets of our success. I guess it's not too secret anymore, but it's an area of focus for sure.
The last thing you want to have happen is for your digital transformation to end up in court. I've been doing this for 20 years and I have seen everything. My name is Marcus Harris. I'm a software and technology attorney focusing my practice on drafting and negotiating software-related contracts and litigating software disputes across the country. Feel free to reach out to us at taftlaw.com. We'd love to talk to you about the litigation process and what you can expect.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name is Eric Kimberling here with Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com. And this podcast is sponsored by Third Stage Consulting, an independent consulting firm that helps clients through the world with their digital transformation journeys. And I'm here with the team of PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. Here's a question from Amar on LinkedIn, and his question is, what are the similarities with business process management and Industry 4.0 smart factories? So in other words, maybe I'll rephrase it a little bit and hopefully capture the intent of Amar's question here. And thank you for the question, Amar. But how does process improvement factor in here? In other words, do you find that a lot of the technologies you guys are deploying is really just sort of streamlining and automating existing processes, or do you find that a lot of manufacturers are totally overhauling their processes as a result of some of this new technology?
Well, it's a great question. So if you think about Industry 4.0 versus 5.0, and what we've talked about, really what you're looking at is, instead of working for the systems, figuring out how to make the systems work for you, right? So that's kind of a fundamental shift. And when you're able to do that, then you can really focus on what is it that the function that the person, the process that they're trying to achieve, what are the steps that are critical, and then what are the non-value added steps that they're performing simply because the systems make them do the same thing in 3 different places, or they have to record something in a way that allows, an ERP to have the same insight as the MES might have, right? And so the way that this is impacting our customers is it allows them to perform the same function one time and allow that information to flow, whether it's automating an activity, whether it's providing data for future analytics, or whether it's an actual event that you say, when this happens, I want to, perform some kind of automation and let somebody know, either to perform an automated activity or to provide insight for someone to take action on immediately. So it really transforms the ability to accomplish the efficiencies that have been kind of promised for decades, right? So it's that the analytics, the RPA, kind of those foundations are there. And then the next level is then AI. Once you have those foundational elements kind of underneath of you, it allows that activity to be the agent of change that was just suggested. In essence, don't make me do the same thing 4 different places in different forms and manners. Allow me to do what I need to do one time and then have it go and do what it, needs to be propagated for me. So I think that for me, that's one way to look at it.
Right. Yeah, it makes total sense. And you hit the biggest buzzword of the day in your response there, Adam, with AI, and let's dive into that a bit. Even though I was going to try and make it a little bit further in the discussion without talking about AI, but it's really difficult not to. But how does AI factor into all this? How is AI changing smart factories and manufacturing in general?
It's a pretty popular word right now, right? And so AI means a lot of different things to different people, to different vendors, and some of it may not be classically AI, but it's being labeled AI. Most technology, big tech, as well as the software OEMs in the enterprise space, are embedding some kind of AI, whether it's data insight and leveraging analytics, whether it's generative AI at some level. But everybody's kind of got their view on what AI is. For us, what we're really doing is we're making sure that our customers have the right foundation. So the data platform, the integration platform, the application stack, and the security protocols. And then we're combining that with the tool sets that are available around data analytics, RPA, and those types of things to provide human insight. We're kind of viewing the introduction of what we're doing into algorithms that are more kind of that classical view of AI as a second phase after customers have kind of built the framework to be able to provide what they need to for those algorithms to do the work for them. And in reality, PCG is not going to be the one building those algorithms, right? We're going to be leveraging the tools and technology of the OEMs that we work with to provide that experience to our customers. So I don't know, Dave or Ken, if you have anything to add there, but that's kind of my view.
No, I would just add that AI, obviously, it has a lot of different connotations in the marketplace. From a manufacturing perspective, our view is that any AI engine requires data to feed it, data for it to learn. And part of what our objective is, and you're kind of hearing a consistent theme through our discussions today, it's really all about making sure that we're collecting the right information. So whether you're using predictive analytics, whether you're using machine learnings, whether you're using some of the automation and AI that's coming down the pike, and that's going to continue to mature, we want to make sure that the customer has that in a digital format that allows them to take advantage as that AI and as those other algorithms continue to mature. And you see that today, whether it's with Microsoft, whether it's with Google and other companies, they're putting their different AI engines out there. And they're already telling the marketplace that the output is not always going to be right. But what they want to do is put it out there so that they're collecting more data, so that those algorithms and those AI solutions become more learned. And then they can ultimately learn as they capture more data. So our goal here is to make sure we're building a strong foundation so that we take advantage and drive value of what we can from that data. And as the AI algorithms and processes continue to mature, is to make sure that we're investing in a manufacturing platform that we have in Smart Factory that allows us to grow and continue to advance as those AI models become more prevalent from a manufacturing perspective.
Yeah, great response. I mean, that's a really good overview. And it sounds like there's an opportunity here for manufacturers as they're capturing more information, on the shop floor and through machines and Internet of Things and all this data capture. It sounds like there's a great opportunity to leverage that data now and actually use some of these AI tools that your OEMs that you work with are building into their products. Do you find so far, I know we're early in the AI journey or the transition over to AI within the enterprise tech space. Do you find that the OEMs you work with, and when we talk about OEMs, by the way, just to back up, we're talking about NetSuite, Infor, some of these ERP providers that you bolt onto or that you build your software on top of. Is that a fair summary? Yes. So do you find that their AI models that they're building now within these core systems, do you find that the AI models are driving enough of where the value could reside in terms of all this data that you guys are capturing on your side with your technology? Or do you find that, in other words, is there a mismatch there between what the AI models can do so far and the data you're capturing, or do you find that it's actually starting to work from that perspective?
Can I take that one first, guys?
Yeah.
I think what's important, Eric, is when you look at the platforms, those ERP systems, to say, echo what Dave mentioned earlier, those systems of record are always transactional. And a lot of the initial efforts around AI are related to transaction-oriented data. Back to Amar's question earlier about BPM, we're all about not only helping that system of record be configured appropriately and correctly, but how do we make sure with a smart factory that the operational data is setting the table for continuous improvement? So as those pillars, the fourth pillar Dave mentioned, the analytics that a smart factory needs to have readily available for all the users at various levels. That's where, back to your previous question about the IoT and capturing the right kind of data, leads to the operational decisions that drive value and naturally get manifested in much more efficient transactions, the ability to satisfy more customers, really drive down a cost of goods sold that gives them a competitive advantage. That a lot of the AI endeavors right now are about mining the appropriate market and customer base. If concurrently you're driving down that cost of goods sales, from a manufacturing perspective, you're giving your organization tremendous leverage to take advantage of that AI that comes through the transactional elements.
Yeah, and Eric, I would add, what we're seeing with some of the ERP vendors is that, they're applying AI and some of the predictive analytics as it relates a lot to the demand and supply plan process, where they can begin to predict, what's going to be late, what orders are going to be impacted, so that it gives your planners and your schedulers the ability to be more proactive in responding, to those potential out of tolerance conditions. But we're also seeing AI being employed. I was just at a conference with some of our other executives, Adam, down in Houston, where we heard one of the OEMs that we partner with talk about how AI is really being embedded into a lot of their communication protocols, whether it's from sales orders, whether it's for customer responses, et cetera, et cetera. But if you take a look at like what Oracle is doing with their autonomous database, where it's self-correcting, it's self-monitoring, self-correcting, there's a lot of technology under the hood that's being employed by these types of companies, and Infor and other companies are doing the same. And so what we're trying to do here at PCG, right, is not necessarily reinvent the wheel, but make sure that when that type of capability of enabling technology is available, we want to make sure that we provide that as a means for our customers to have access to that through our smart factory, suite of applications as well. I do see that there is a question, if I might, Eric, about data security.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you guys that, actually.
Yeah, that Darren had brought up. And I think, one of the critical things that we believe in, right, is, obviously data is extremely important. And OEMs are beginning to understand how important that data is within that PLC. That's one of the reasons why they're beginning to make that data proprietary, because they don't want to lose that potential revenue stream, and they want you to pay for access to your data. You've already bought the piece of equipment, but now they want you to pay for a subscription for you to get access to that data in the PLC. So that's a little interesting twist in terms of what we see going on in the marketplace. But from a data security perspective, one of the things that we believe in firmly, when we are integrating into devices or into machines or into PLCs, we want to be a read-only business system. We do not want to have any communication protocol that is bidirectional. Now, it's not to say that we can't do that, but our business choice from a product development is that we want to be read only, because we know that if we open up a channel of being able to write data back to that PLC, that can introduce some potential vulnerability into your network. So that's one thing. The other thing is that by having the right secure data connection architecture within the technology that we're employing, and some of the encryption and some of the other packets of data that we use and how we integrate back into other systems, that's also something that we take critically important as a part of our product design. So, the one thing I would tell you that, from a data security perspective, keep it as much as possible from a read-only point of view, and make sure that when you are working with any technology customer, ask them to show you what their data protection and data security protocols are. And there are industry standards that are out there. AWS and Microsoft Azure and others, they have their own, and those are all ones that are very good in terms of how they're leading the marketplace around that data security capabilities as well.
Yeah, I would just add to that, and I'm not the technologist amongst the team, Eric, but protocols around OAuth 1 and OAuth 2 designed to protect your data that need to be incorporated in any of those data transmissions. Those apply the appropriate rigor, Darian, that ensure that your data is safe as it's been moving around. I saw Trey asked a good question. It's pretty broad. Trey, if you had a particular discipline within those hard skills you're thinking about, we're touching on a lot of things today. Darian's question was very much about connectivity, integration, and security. A lot of the IoT question is based around controls engineering, understanding OPC. From a broader business system perspective, that requires some understanding of, financial elements, manufacturing, production and planning, materials control. Is there a particular area, if you want to throw it back out in chat, that's of most interest to you? Because the hard skills vary across those 4 disciplines I referenced, and just from a BPM perspective or continuous improvement, obviously understanding process engineering is really important at the subtleties and being able to distinguish, like Dave said, there's 25 variables out there, 4 make a difference. Discovering which 4 to really drive is the foundation for your AI. That's where the value is going to come from. Right. So if there's something we can fine tune that response, making giving you another general answer for a very broad question.
Yeah, it's a great question. And here's a comment from Paul on LinkedIn. Paul says, my recommendation is for AI to generate the impact on the overall SNOP based on the data being collected from these systems. Gives almost as close to real-time information as possible. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts or knee-jerk reactions to that.
No, we would agree 100%. And Paul, it's unfortunate in terms of how many customers that we go into that do not really have a very good SNOP process. And exactly what happens is what you said in your follow-up comment, right? Is that there's a lot of knee-jerk reaction. And we do see, and that's why we do see a lot of AI and a lot of attention being given to the demand and the supply planning process within customers. Some might think of it as the MRP kind of process as well too, because there's a lot of nuances, right? There's a lot of rippling effects that takes place whenever a vendor is not able to supply a purchase order receipt on time, or whenever production doesn't get made, or the right quantity doesn't get made, or the right quality. All that has a rippling effect through that demand and supply plan. And so we do see that as being a very big area of opportunity to amalgamate information both in real time, but also based on the demand signals that are coming in from the marketplace, your customers, whether it's an actual order or a forecasted order, to be able to drive a more robust, what we would call sales and operation planning, but also drive that through from a budgeting perspective in terms of what can we forecast in terms of what our profitability would be. So we do see customers, some of the larger OEMs out there beginning to put a lot of investment there, some of which we've talked about already today. And the critical thing for us, right, I started with one of the pillars earlier, was creating an environment for success. And that is exactly one of the most critical elements of having an environment success, is making sure we have the right material at the right place for the right equipment in the right environment at the right time. And it sounds kind of cliche-ish, but the reality of it is, I mean, that's what Smart Factory really begins with, is having that environment set up so your people can be successful within.
Yeah.
And if I could, Dave, just Anthony's original question, again, that being set up for success, Anthony, includes, that right infrastructure within the facility that you can reliably transmit information very quickly with a high degree of frequency. So again, we're not the right guys on the call today to answer that question specifically, but we'll work with Eric to try to work through our teammates that are more specialists in that to put a response back out as part of the podcast.
Yeah. And I wasn't ignoring you there, Anthony, but I knew that was a super technical question that I wasn't sure if we could get into, but it is a good point though. I mean, certainly the wireless aspect of things can be very important, especially when you're dealing with rural and distributed manufacturing organizations, for sure. I'm here with the team at PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. We've got a lot more to cover. We're going to take a quick break and we'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control.
Just tell me what you've got to say to me. I've been waiting for so long to hear.
I'm excited to share our newly released 2024 Digital Enterprise Operations Report. This free download is available on the Third Stage website at thirdstage-consulting.com. This report is truly packed full of technology-independent and agnostic insights for your project to ensure that you're strategically optimized for success. Download your copy today with the QR code in front of me or visit our website for more details.
Hi, this is Eric Kimberling with Third Stage Consulting and your host of Transformation Ground Control. I want to encourage you to read our Guide to Organizational Change Management. It's a free report or free guide that we publish. It's one that I actually wrote that talks about best practices and lessons learned as it relates to change management. So as you know, on this podcast, we cover a lot of stuff related to the human sides of change, organizational change management, including training, communications, org design, all kinds of stuff as it relates to change management. So if you're trying to learn more about change management, or you're looking for more direction and ideas on how to get started on your change management strategy and your overall journey, be sure to check out this guide. You can read it by scanning the QR code on the screen in front of you, or in the links below for this particular podcast episode. You can find a link to take you to the page that will allow you to register to go ahead and download that and read it for free. So be sure to check it out. It's the Guide to Organizational Change Management, written by yours truly. I hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you think, and hope you enjoy the rest of this episode. Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name is Eric Kimberling here with Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday at transformationgroundcontrol.com. And this podcast is sponsored by Third Stage Consulting, an independent consulting firm that helps clients through the world with their digital transformation journeys. And I'm here with the team of PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. When manufacturers are going through this transition to all these new tools we're talking about, Internet of Things and AI and smart factories, Industry 5.0, all this stuff, when manufacturers are going through these changes and these transformations, what are some of the biggest challenges you see in terms of adopting these technologies and getting the value potential out of the technologies?
Well, I'll start, Eric. And, first I would say, don't overthink it, right? If you haven't really started the journey, pick a place and start. The old cliche again of kind of starting with a pilot or a proof of concept. It's all about learning, right? And you don't have to be perfect, so don't get into that postpone perfection mode. So one of the biggest things that we see with customers is that, they spend way too much time trying to analyze where to start. And then once they get into it, the other big thing that we see is customers are always trying to force the newer technology and the newer approaches back to what they always used to do. And I can't tell you how many times customers are sitting there saying, okay, well, I see what the platform is capable of doing, but can you make it do what we've been doing for the last 25 years? And that introduces a lot of risk because now you're creating a lot of customizations. And yes, I know you want to make people comfortable because you want to try to help improve that adoption, but there is a point where you have to create that ability to gain the advantage of what that new technology is able to bring to you. So we would always say, start small. And one prime example that we do with all of our customers is that if you do have pen and paper out there, if you have clipboards that people are collecting data manually, whether it be on a quality or an inspection or on the shop floor, to capture what you produce or what your downtime was, begin to capture that digitally, because that will start to create a means by which to do richer analytics and become more proactive in the way in which you respond from an improvement initiative. The other thing would be, don't try to bite off too much at one time. We already talked about, just because you can doesn't mean that you should. If you're going to integrate to a piece of equipment, which we always think is good to try to bring some automation in, some data collection automatically, focus on those 3, 4, 5, 6 data tags that are going to have that greatest impact on what's going to give you visibility to your throughput, around your product quality, around your product cost, and obviously your service levels, because those are the things that are going to drive your profitability levers within your business. And so we help many of our customers, decide where to start, but the key thing is to start. So those would be some quick learnings that we see at a very, very high level with our customers. Guys, anything else?
You know what, Dave? I wanted to add that to go back to the theme of always including the human intelligence that's out there, is respect that human intelligence. So an important part is making sure that those operators understand why we're doing something. It may be different, so they need to understand why. And it's not going to be like Dave said, we've always done it, and here's the reason why. If you've installed the discipline to dutifully capture information on a clipboard, here's why we want to digitize that. Here's how we want to make that process more visible to you. Obviously everything we do ultimately has to drive value for the business, but if we take a step back and start with, if it drives value for the operator, you're going to create the excitement that you need to have that acceptance that you got to have to be successful. And then back to Dave's pilot idea, that initial success is just going to breed the desire to spread that throughout the floor. And, that human intelligence, grows like wildfire.
Eric, Darian's just brought up a really interesting point about change management, right? And one of the other risks that we see with customers is they think that a transformation initiative of Industry 4.0, Industry 5.0 is an IT project. Or they see it as an engineering project, and they try to put it into those silos because that's where it's always lived.
Right.
The reality of it is, it's not an IT initiative. It's not an engineering initiative. It has components of those. And an organization has to be structured. And we like to set up customers where we create cross-functional teams that have the different representations of the disciplines, so that we can drive those types of actions that need to be done, but not be necessarily driven and beholden by the old ways of doing things. Because to Darian's point, there is a significant change management and behavioral management aspect of this. And that's why starting with a pilot or a proof of concept is always, something extremely important, because it allows you to build that momentum, that excitement, and that tempo, but it also allows you to generate some quick wins that helps that excitement level, but it also begins to generate that value return that you can take and begin to either invest back in the business or to invest in that acceleration of that rollout of that industry 4.0 initiative as well too.
Yeah, and Dave, I would say William just threw in a really savvy comment on, that it's not a perpetual whiteboarding exercise. We are big fans of discouraging postponed perfection, and part of our smart factory solution with that right pilot environment. Part of my role is the delivery of our product. I mean, it's hours and days to see a noticeable impact and to iterate on how can we be better next shift or next hour than we are right now. And that's what really drives that excitement. And there you see the synergy of all the concepts that we've been talking about to excite the home team, create the value the organization needs, and set the table for ongoing continuous improvement, whether you call it BPM or linking or Lean Six Sigma, or you want to use your AI. All that starts with getting started in a meaningful way, not just talking about it.
Yeah, it's a great point. And it sort of comes back to Dave's opening comments about the 4 pillars. I mean, when we think about all these last few questions we've gotten through, it's a lot of focus on data integration, the human component of the change. So there's a lot of different dimensions that we need to look at these sorts of projects from. And I think that's what you guys have done a great job of sort of helping us unpack here today. So really appreciate that. Any closing advice that you would have for manufacturing teams that are about to embark on some sort of digital transformation journey?
I would just say,
I think.
Go ahead, Adam, please.
No, go ahead, Dave. It's fine. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, don't think of this as being, as I said before, an engineering or an IT initiative. Think it as a company initiative, and make sure that you have the right enabling technology to support you. A lot of customers, they're trying to use the investments that they've already made. We're not suggesting that you rip and replace everything that you've invested in, but select a platform, a next generation manufacturing platform that allows you to amalgamate all the data coming from these different data sources in a way that is very, very easy to employ from a low code, no code perspective. A lot of times customers view this as being a controls engineering initiative where you have to build a lot of, robust code and one-off types of integration solutions. Next generation manufacturing platforms are really low code, no code, where you can deploy these applications in a way that gets you to value very, very quickly. So that would be an area in a key area that I would say to always think about as you think about your plan moving forward. Adam?
Yeah, I think as with most things, you need to think about what the outcome you're trying to get to is. What as a business, where are you going? What are you trying to achieve in the market, and what's the best path to get there? And then I think one of the things that I would be remiss to not mention is having a good partner to help you with picking a platform and understanding, helping if you're not there to find a partner that can really help you select a technology platform that's going to serve your needs, not just today, but over the next 10 years, that are going to be scalable and elastic as your business changes, whether it's geographically, whether it's, the product mix, whether it's, the customer base that might be changing itself. So think about those things, and think about partners that are really focused on business attainment of objectives, not implementing their technology, but what are you trying to get done as a business? And then how are they going to facilitate that change within your business? That's a people issue. It's a change management issue, but it has to be supported by the right technology. So those things go together. So having having someone alongside of you that can help you navigate that, I have found very beneficial, because there's a lot to think of. There's the security aspect, the what do I do with my data aspect, what's the right solution aspect. These things come into play, and having advisors that can help you make those right decisions because they've helped others do it and they've done it themselves is really essential. And then business leadership within the organization. If you have all the right answers, but you don't have that business sponsorship inside your organization, change management is a very heavy lift without that. So knowing that when you say, hey, we want to do this, that as a business leader, you're kind of signing up for being the face of that initiative and really kind of owning it and coming alongside of the partners that are helping you put it into the organization, inject that change in the organization is really essential. If it matters to you, your people will see it. If you're not there, they're going to see that too. And so I think those are very key elements in any kind of initiative related to business systems.
Yeah, totally agree. What would you close with, Ken? Closing advice for manufacturers out there?
Yeah, maybe. I just kind of go back to what Darian said earlier. If you're the process, if you're getting out on the field and playing the game, you're going to make mistakes. That's natural, but you're going to learn from that. All of the things that we're talking about, it's not a big bang to be, wow, we're suddenly an Industry 5.0 company. There's a lot of steps along the way, and learn from the mistakes, and it's okay to make them. And then that way you keep all of your human capital well invested in the process. They know they're supported. What Adam said, if you're communicating correctly, if something's not going right, it shouldn't be a surprise. It should be, hey, we recognize we're drifting a little. How do we get this right back on track? And, ultimately we achieve our objectives and the business garners great value.
Yeah, it's great sound advice. And I appreciate you guys being here today. Adam, how can listeners and viewers of this interview and this podcast, how can they learn more about you guys, about PCG?
Yeah, well, certainly we can include some information about our contact information in this chat. You can certainly look are available, or if you want to reach out to pcgservices.com or asmartfactory.com, you can learn about PCG as a whole and our particular IP that we've talked a bit about here today called Smart Factory. And Eric, I just want to say thank you for giving us this forum to talk about our solution. We're pretty excited about it. We love helping manufacturing companies. We know you do too. So we very much appreciate that. And Dave and Ken, I really appreciate you kind of sharing information about your baby, right? Smart Factory. So thank you so much for coming alongside of me today, guys, and helping share some about our company.
All right. Thank you, Adam and team. Great conversation. Appreciate having you all on the show, and appreciate all the great questions from the audience as well. We've got a lot of interesting follow-up discussion and questions we're going to get to here in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control. My name is Eric Kimberling, and I'm the CEO and founder of Third Stage Consulting. Before we dive too far into today's content, I want to invite you to learn a little bit more about Third Stage Consulting, who we are and what we do. We help clients through their entire digital transformation life cycles, beginning with digital strategy, software evaluation and selection, all the way through and including implementation planning, implementation readiness, and the actual implementation itself. We're technology agnostic, so we only represent our clients' best interests. We do not represent software vendors. But having said that, we work very closely with software vendors, all the leading players that you can imagine we've worked with, both in helping clients evaluate and select them, but also in helping clients implement those solutions as well. So we have a very broad, objective, agnostic view of the market that is meant to really represent your interest as you go through your digital transformation. I also encourage you to scan this QR code right here to get access to our resource center. This resource center has a ton of information, a ton of ebooks that are free. You have access to top 10 software rankings, playbooks for how to make your project more successful, guides to change management, YouTube videos, all kinds of stuff that are going to help you through your digital transformation. So I encourage you to scan this QR code to get access to those resources. And please feel free to reach out to me directly to brainstorm ideas about your project. Even if it's just informally, you want to bounce around some ideas and
get some informal advice, I'd be happy to spend some time with you. So feel free to reach out to me. I've included my contact information below. You can also find it in the description field of this video as well.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name is Eric Kimberling here with Darian Chwialkowski. And Darian, you had a chance to listen in and actually had some great questions as part of this panel discussion with PCG talking about Industry 4.0 and smart factories. What were some of your thoughts and takeaways from that conversation?
Yeah, I mean, this was the first time I really have learned about what the Industry 4.0 is actually going to be and what smart factories really look like. So I thought that was really interesting, and I thought they explained it quite well. And also answered the questions quite well of any concerns or challenges that you might have while implementing this. Another thing that I'm unsure of when I just thought of after the discussion, of course, was how does the new Industry 4.0 affect the people working in the manufacturing? Like, how does it affect careers and jobs? What does that look like? Do those people just get placed into a different position, or does it cut down on jobs? What does that kind of look like? Do you know the answer to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's speculation at this point, but just based on what we're seeing from our manufacturing clients, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot like how robotics and shop floor automation has affected jobs in factories. So, you know, you look back, say, 30 or 40 years ago, the average factory was a lot more dangerous and a lot more physically demanding and more labor intensive than it is now. Now you've got robots and a certain amount of automation that's doing a lot of the work that humans used to do. And there was always a fear back then that the robots would replace people's jobs. And I think that has happened to some degree, but I think the bigger impact to manufacturing jobs, quite frankly, has been offshoring manufacturing jobs. I think that's been the bigger impact than robotics or technology itself. But I think where technology and robotics has the bigger impact, more so than potential job loss, is just job change. And what I mean by that is I think it's just going to change what shop floor workers have to think about. So in other words, rather than just thinking about the product they're making right now and the product that's right in front of them on the assembly line, now they've also need to be thinking about capturing data and making sure that they understand the upstream and downstream consequences of the work they're doing and how they impact the entire supply chain and decision making back at the corporate office and that sort of thing. So I think it just changes the jobs. I don't think that it's necessarily going to eliminate a material number. It's just going to disrupt it in a different way by changing the skill sets that laborers need to have around that.
Yeah, so maybe those people need to look into, okay, what skill sets do I need to gain in order to stay in this industry kind of thing, which is super interesting. Another thing that I was thinking about throughout this conversation is obviously this is going to hopefully increase productivity and make things a little bit faster and streamlined. Will it mean that shipping is going to be just as fast as Amazon for like everything? So will that mean that it can help make typical companies, I know from a shopping perspective, I'm like, can I get my clothes faster? But like for anybody else, I know everybody's patience has kind of gone down. Like, so will this just make things faster? I feel like that's a question that everybody wants to know.
I do think it will. I don't know. I mean, I think most manufacturers and actually not even just manufacturers, even other companies are aspiring to be more like Amazon or more like some of these big, massive providers that we've sort of been spoiled by over the years. I know just the other day, over the weekend, actually, I ordered something like at 6 o'clock on Sunday night, and it was at my house by like 3 a.m. the next morning. It was just crazy because we live close to an Amazon warehouse. It's just a couple miles up the road, but still, it just was pretty phenomenal. So I think, I don't know if the average manufacturer is going to be able to ship within hours like that. Maybe they will at some point, but I think aspiring to that and trying to get as close as you can is just going to create this arms race that's going to just increase the bar and increase the performance of manufacturers through the world. They may never quite reach Amazon just because Amazon has such massive scale. And for Amazon, it's not just the technology, it's also just their massive scale and the fact that they've got this integrated supply chain where they own the trucks, they own the warehouses that are spread out throughout the whole world now, whereas it used to be more centralized warehouses. Now it's distributed. And the average manufacturer is probably not going to be able to do that, as far as getting that level of scale and vertical integration that Amazon has gotten to. But they can certainly take leaps and bounds getting as close as they can. And ultimately, that's going to help us all as consumers and customers of these potential or of these manufacturers as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be cool to see how, right, like it might not be like Amazon, like you said, because it is not realistic for every manufacturer to have that scale. But I think overall, it'll be interesting to see how much faster the processes happen while in the manufacturing. When somebody places an order to how fast it's then packaged because of the new systems that are getting integrated.
Yeah, absolutely. And the more companies that deploy these sorts of technologies, I mean, the more we're going to see that impact on our daily lives, either as consumers or as B2B sellers and producers as well. So, well, good stuff. Well, I'm going to shift gears here in just a moment. We're going to play you a podcast clip from a podcast that I was recently on called Legacy Leaders. And I'll let the host introduce herself here in just a moment. Her name is Izabela. I'll let her pronounce her last name because she can pronounce it a lot better than I can. But her name's Izabela. She's actually here from the Denver area, coincidentally. Actually, she's really close to our office. She's, I think, less than a mile away from where our office is. So we're close in proximity. And we also did a podcast together where I joined her podcast. She's going to be on this podcast in a few weeks. So as a preview to that appearance that she's going to make here in a few weeks, we thought we'd play you this clip in the meantime. And it's of her interviewing me to talk about digital transformation, the journey I've had just starting Third Stage and growing the company and whatnot. So really interesting conversation. She has some great questions. So we're going to play that clip here in just a moment. But first, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back with more Transformation Ground Control.
If you are aiming for transformation success, turn to Third Stage Consulting Group. Third Stage's independent and technology agnostic consulting team helps clients define their digital strategies, define their roadmaps, and manage their transformations. With offices in the US, Europe, and Australia, our team helps the world's most forward-thinking organizations through their transformation pitfalls and risks. If you are embarking on a digital transformation or business change initiative, contact Third Stage Consulting to see how we can help you reach the third stage of transformation success. Learn more about us and download independent reports, videos, and other best practices at thirdstage-consulting.com.
Steve, we've chatted before, but remind me and our audience a little bit more about Epicor and where you're focused these days.
Hey, Eric. Yep. Good to talk to you, and thanks for asking. So Epicor, what we do is we make and sell cloud software for the global supply chain. And when I say that, when a customer purchases our software, we're committed to running their day-to-day business. And this would include everything from finance and procurement to production and sales. It's a responsibility we take very seriously, and it's something I believe we're very good at. We've got an employee base that has the deep expertise to understand their business and run their business. We also compete against 2 or 3 of the largest software companies in the world. So it's not good enough for our products to be good. They have to be consistently great, and that's a really important focus for me. So great products, deep industry expertise. We also focus on the essential workers that make those businesses run. We like to say Epicore's got you covered from the shop floor to the top floor. And when we say that, we really mean it. So that's Epicore.
Your annual Insights User Conference is just around the corner, the Epicore Insights Conference. What are you looking forward to there, and what could we expect to hear about at this conference?
The big thing for me is that we get a lot of what I would call quality time with our customers. And when I say quality time, I mean good old-fashioned, face-to-face, in the same place at the same time, experience with the customers where they tell you what they really think. And in the case of Epicore, we get a lot of great feedback around applications, features, technologies that they love. And in some cases, where we've fallen short. I can tell you that when I think about some of the big projects we've done in the last 7 years that have made the biggest impact on both improving the customer experience, and this would include everything from Prophet 21 and Eclipse, which are distribution products, to Kinetic, which is for manufacturing, to our catalog, which is for automobiles. The feedback that has come directly from our customers at the Insights Conference has had the biggest impact on me. And in many cases, it's resulted in the biggest budgetary decisions I've made to fund projects. So I really appreciate the direct feedback we get. It isn't always fun. It can be a little bumpy, but customers know what they want, and our customers are very deep into their industries. So it's a level of information and intelligence we couldn't get any other way. I always look forward to that. That's the highlight for me.
And I'll do anything you ever dreamed to be complete.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. My name is Eric Kimberling here with Darian Chwialkowski. You can find new episodes of this show every week at transformationgroundcontrol.com. So I'm excited for this last clip we're going to play for you. It's a clip from an interview that I did on a podcast called Legacy Leaders. Izabela, the host of that podcast, interviewed me recently to talk about digital transformation as well as the entrepreneurial journey behind Third Stage. So with that, we'll go ahead and roll you the clip.
ERP itself, it's been more complex than ever before. You mentioned cloud, you mentioned additional digital footprints and technologies that are now available. Now we're throwing AI, machine learning, automation, and so much more. So do you mind walking us through what trends do you see on global scale and definitely specifically for US market?
Well, I think up until a year and a half ago, the biggest trend was probably cloud. You know, all these different software vendors moving their old on-premise offerings to the cloud, and that still is a trend, but it's been largely overshadowed by artificial intelligence. It's interesting when I go to different industry conferences, whether it's a software vendors conference or any other sort of industry technology conference, AI is just by far, hands down, just the number one focus. I mean, everyone's talking about AI. Software vendors are trying really hard to build AI capabilities into their solutions and trying to figure out how AI can enhance and improve their solution offerings. And, you know, certainly the advent of ChatGPT at the beginning of 2023 is about just over a year ago when ChatGPT really took the world by storm. I think that's created a consumer level understanding of what AI is, or at least what on the surface AI could do to automate jobs and automate, you know, some more tedious functions. So it's an really interesting time, in my opinion, because most technologies start off with large consumer adoption, and then it takes a few years for the enterprise technology space to catch up. But in the case of ChatGPT and AI, it's sort of like been in parallel while consumers are figuring out ChatGPT and in many cases becoming enamored with AI and ChatGPT. At the same time, the enterprise tech vendors are trying to figure out, how do we keep up? You know, how do we add AI capabilities to our system? So I think that's the biggest trend we're seeing is AI. But a second, you know, a distant second trend would be the continuation of the movement to the cloud. We're here playing a clip of Legacy Leaders podcast, where I was interviewed recently by Izabela, but we're going to take a quick break and get back into the conversation here in just a moment. We'll be right back with more Transformation Ground Control.
Is an art that's hard to change. Another clever word sets off an unsuspecting hurt, and as you step back into line,
Interested in working for a company that truly values your unique skills and experience? Here at Third Stage, we don't hire based on resumes alone. We look at the full candidate, experience, and willingness to provide excellent service for our clients. Within a technology independent and agnostic consulting firm, you have the opportunity to learn across industries with a diverse group of clients. Our consultants also have the opportunity to diversify their portfolio and learn across technology systems. If you're interested in joining a high-growth entrepreneurial organization, please reach out to us at work@thirdstage-consulting.com.
Are you looking for ways to promote your product or service to enterprise technology decision makers and influencers throughout the world, like the ones who listen to this podcast? Major Tom Productions creates media, events, and influencer marketing for B2B technology providers. Our productions are exciting, educational, disruptive, and effective. Most importantly, they create results. Our content is unlike any other in this industry, engaging, influential, and trusted by technology buyers and influencers throughout the world. Each month, our productions reach hundreds of thousands of targeted buyers and decision makers who trust and engage with our honest and tech-agnostic content. With long-tail viral results and engagement with our content, Major Tom Productions provides a way to reach your target market and create awareness, calls to action, and a connection with potential customers. So collaborate with us today. Learn how we can feature your product or service on podcasts such as Transformation Ground Control, Journey to S4HANA, and Journey to Dynamics 365. We can also feature your brand on our YouTube channel called Digital Transformation with Eric Kimberling, which boasts over 100,000 subscribers and over 2 million video views per year. You can also participate in our in-person events, including our Digital Stratosphere Conference. Contact us today to learn more. We can tailor a marketing campaign that works for you. We look forward to helping more people learn more about and become engaged with your brand.
Hello, welcome back to Transformation Ground Control, episode number 171. This is Eric Kimberling with Darian Chwialkowski, and we're showing you a clip here of a podcast called Legacy Leaders, where I was interviewed recently. Let's jump back into the conversation.
What are your thoughts how we should position and anticipate what's going to happen in future, specifically when we see inflation, when we see delays, the certain products are not any more longer available, we're looking for alternatives?
Right. Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, we have to back up and look at history here a little bit and say that, today's supply chain as it was up until 2020 was built for a very stable society, a very stable supply chain, a stable global supply chain. And the supply chain as we knew it up until 2020 was really, it sort of evolved in the 1980s and 1990s. It seems like that's when it really materialized into globalization and offshoring and looking at global supply chains. I mean, before that, there wasn't a ton of that happening at scale as it was starting in the 1980s into the 1990s, certainly the early 2000s as well. But what happened in 2020 was that it exposed the vulnerabilities of that supply chain globally as we knew it. Because we built, all this in the supply chain industry that were somehow touching it. We sort of built it for that stable environment where we know that a product is going to sit on the water on a container coming over the ocean, and it's going to take 6 weeks to get to where we need it to go. And that's just the way it is. And you plan ahead for it. And you know that you're getting a lower cost, but it's going to take you a little longer to get the product, but you plan for it. And everything, typically works smoothly. It's not easy. It's not perfect, but generally things work smoothly. But what happens when there's a major, pandemic like COVID? Or a major geopolitical disruption like the wars that we're experiencing right now. Those things disrupt that global supply chain in the way it was built pre-2020. And so what we have to do now is rethink the supply chain strategies we have and look at how do we manage risk? How do we diversify the vendors that we're relying on? A lot of companies are still solely dependent on one core critical component that they can only get from one supplier. They only have one supplier available to get it from. Those companies are at risk, and those are the same companies that are running into stockouts and things of that nature. So what you have to do is really look at how do we diversify and hedge our risk in our supply chain, and also how do we find the right balance between low cost and timely delivery. I think for too long, the supply chain globally was built around this concept of where can we get the lowest cost components or raw materials. And it's okay if it takes 6 weeks for us to get it because it's low cost. But now organizations are realizing that maybe that's actually costing us more to have to wait 6 weeks for something, or not being able to plan that far ahead accurately, to where it might make more sense to onshore some of that supply, to where, yep, we're paying more, but we know we can get the stuff faster. We can respond to changing customer demand faster. For some organizations, that's actually the low cost, high value supply chain, but that's not how supply chains were generally built. So I think those are some of the things you've got to think about, is just how does the supply chain look in the future, and how do we need to improve and transform the supply chain that we have, that we're managing. All right, great conversation, and thank you, Izabela, for having me on that show, and I look forward to interviewing Izabela here in a few weeks on this podcast. She'll be on in several weeks from now, so stay tuned for that. We've got her scheduled and locked and loaded, so she'll be on to talk about more the human side of transformation and sort of the non-technical pieces of digital transformation. So stick around and make sure you stay tuned for her appearance on the show here in a few weeks. But in the meantime, I want to thank you all for listening here today. Thank you for co-hosting again here today, Darian. Thank you to the audience for the great questions. You can find new episodes of this show every Wednesday by going to transformationgroundcontrol.com. Hope you have a great week, and in the meantime, we'll see you soon.